Okay,
Thank
good
you.
enough.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the January 2025 London Modern Quilt Guild virtual meeting. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. I know everybody's got lots to do, and appreciate we have some guests and we have some new members. So appreciate everybody taking their time. I do it this way. Okay. There we go. So this is what we're going to be looking at again. Today, we've got Kiri from the Canadian Quilters Association. Thanks, Kiri, for joining us. And she's got a number of things for us. We're going to look at what we did in 2024 and then what we're going to be doing in 2025. Shirley and Linda are going to be going through some of the block of the month for 2025 tidbits. Let you know what's happening with the executive for 2025, renewals, anniversary party. And then we actually didn't have anybody send us anything for show and share or quilt whispering, but somebody might have something they can hold up. So we'll see when we get there. All right. So I'm going to turn this over to Kiri. Thank you very much for joining us. Just let me know when you want me to flip to the next screen.
Sure. Well, thank you. I'm the new regional rep for Ontario West. So I'm reaching out to all the guilds to kind of get them familiar and sort of try to give them some updates. Of course, we don't have tons of money. So I'm going to try to make it to most of the guilds, or fortunately, a lot of the guilds are doing January, February as Zooms. So I'm doing a lot of Zooms like February is quite busy Zooming. So, and I actually have, I went to the Modern Quilt Show last year. And actually I was just swimming at East Lyons on Thursday. And I was trying to look to see where you're going to have your anniversary. So obviously it's going to be in one of the meeting rooms. So anyway, yeah. So if you can go to the next slide. We do start a quilt along. It's called True Colors, which it's celebrating the two SLGBTQI plus community. It's free. There are 12 blocks, and the first block will be posted on Wednesday, the 15th. So it'll go on for 14 weeks. And you can see the colors are quite bold. If you go to the CQI site and under events, then you look and see they've actually put all the Kona colors that you could have that will be used in the different blocks. Or it doesn't have to be a Kona color. You can just sort of pull from your stash, because I know some of the people that are on today have very large stashes, as we probably all do. So next, go ahead, ask a question as you go, Jan.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, because everybody in our guild, we had an introduction to Quilty Solids last year. And you can use Quilty Solids to find out a corresponding manufacturer that's not to a color that's in Kona with Quilty Solids.
Oh, nice. Good. And you could even use a print. Like they just sort of told us what sort of the base colors are and you can kind of see them. I took a picture of what the colors of the community are. And so you could substitute all kinds of fun colors. So I don't know, has anybody participated in the quilt along before?
No.
With CQA? Oh, good. Excellent. Next slide. And interestingly enough, the next webinar, which is on, I guess the 15th is kind of a big day. Wednesday's the 15th. They're posting the quilt along. Plus, there's a webinar that night. It's Ruth Ann Berry, and she's from the Quilters Clinic in Michigan. She's also one of the presenters at Quilt Canada this year, and her presentation is called Color and Contrast for Dimensional Effect. And she specializes in 3D geometrical patterns and Bargello. So if you look at her website called Quilters Clinic, you'll see all kinds of really funky stuff. And her Bargello is absolutely beautiful. And it depends on whether you really like the 3D effect, but you can really do some interesting stuff with color. So the cost for CQA members is $10 and then $15 for non-members. And you just go to the CQA site and click on it. And you can either use a credit card or PayPal to listen to it. And then for those people who can't attend, it's at 7 p.m. that night. If you can't attend, they record it and you get a week to listen to the presentation. Okay, next slide. And what's really exciting is Quilt Canada is in Ontario, in Mississauga. So on this side of Toronto this year. And I've actually never been to a Quilt Canada yet. So I'm really looking forward to it. They have an amazing selection of both teachers, workshops, and lectures. So you can actually go to the website. I checked this morning because they were supposed to post the schedule by yesterday and they didn't. So maybe by Monday they will have it. I'll send a quick message to our executive director, but registration for the sessions doesn't start until February 25th. The hotels that there's a Quilt Canada rate at are the 4 Points Sheraton and the Holiday Inn in the Toronto International Airport Holiday Inn. So it's Wednesday to Saturday, June 18th to 21st. The Wednesday, we're still setting up, but there will be lectures and workshops, but you won't be able to see the quilt. So if you're planning a bus trip, you should probably go the Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Okay. And then there's still some room in the Merchant Mall. Not a lot, but there's, if you know of any quilt stores that are interested in being in the Merchant Mall, there's still a little bit of space. Next slide. Some people have reached out to me about volunteer opportunities. So right now they're looking for some key team lead positions, like being in charge of the lectures and workshops, that kind of stuff. And they have very precise job descriptions. There's one of them looked like fun, was being in charge of the Merchant Mall. And that didn't seem to be overly onerous, but you have to be obviously on site for the whole time. And then if you want to just be a general volunteer, they're not going to start looking at recruitment until the end of March. Okay, next slide. So this is the time that you can actually submit your quilts. So they have lots of categories. There's the art, abstract, improvisational, and I actually just put a picture of last year's in the modern category for by Bill Stearman, and called Moving Forward. He got first, and he's actually helped choose some of the True Colors blocks. So he was on the panel for that. So there's lots of stuff. It's time to submit. So they just opened on Monday. So there's an entry form to fill in, and then you take some pictures. And so from our area, I know from we've had several people do well at the show. So I know that you guys are very talented. So I would encourage everyone to go ahead and you submit by sending photos, and then they'll let you know whether you actually have to send your quilt to get. It's a juried show. So,
Mary?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
If you look at that quilt, we're going to be talking about strip sets later, and I can see a lot of strip sets in that.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a story with his quilt. He had a bad medical diagnosis, so it's called Moving Forward. So the reason it meanders is because he's had quite a journey. So that's sort of part of his story. So great. So strip sets. Well, I hope you don't mind if I stay and listen to the rest of.
We would love for you to stay.
Okay. And then, the next slide, go ahead. I did, as a new regional rep, I've learned a lot. So every year, as being part of a CQA, you can get a guild rosette for your quilt show. And so they're inviting everybody who's won a guild, who's won a rosette, to then show again at the Quilt Canada. So if you have shown, you have to have won between January 2023 and December 2024. And if you didn't show at Quilt Canada, that was in Edmonton. So again, they'll be part of the exhibition hall will actually have all of the guild rosettes. And there's actually then a prize, I guess it would be called the Master Rosette, for people showing. So the judges will again go through and take a look. Next slide, please.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we'll make sure that our Rosette winner, Tammy, knows about the opportunity and considers sending her quilts. She was best of show. It was a small world.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think I actually remember that one because I thought it was fabulous. So,
yes,
I mean, I actually went on and looked at all of the different Rosette winners for the last 2 years, and the work is just phenomenal. So it's fabulous. So we do have a Trentex challenge for this year, and it's 5 fat quarters, and 2 of them, the one that's got the pink, orange, and yellow has got some metallic, and so does the one to the far right that's got sort of a deep pink color, has got some metallic into it. So there's 5 fat quarters. You have to, the quilt has to be no larger than 120 inches the perimeter. And if you're a member, the kits are $25. And if you're a non-member, it's $35. You need to use just the 5 to be entered into the, to be able to win first, second, third, judge's choice and viewer's choice. Now, if you'd like, you can also add 3 other colors. And all of these quilts are sold by silent auction at Quilt Canada. And that's really one of their big fundraisers. So both by selling the kits and then by doing the silent auction. And you have to finish your quilt and send it in by April 30th. So I've already started designing mine. It's not finalized yet. I'm still kind of playing around with the fabrics and stuff. But it's a fun thing to do. And actually some of my colleagues, then they just go bid, their family members or themselves bids on their quilts if they want to get them back. So it's kind of fun. So that she has actually kind of an interesting collection of her Trentex challenges. Next, has anybody done the challenges before? Oh,
I've done.
Sure.
Yeah, I've done about 5. I won 3rd place around 1990.
Oh, excellent. Cool. And then, of course, as we're trying to encourage our youth to take up the art of quilting, there's a youth challenge that has 3 categories: 5 to 9 years old, 10 to 14, and then 15 to 19. And winners get a Janome sewing machine. So it's really fabulous. And that's their pattern. They just have to have, they get 1 fat quarter called stargazing. And that's their theme. Oh, I forgot to say that the other theme for the Trentex challenge is called blooming. So I forgot to say that. Anyway, and the one for the youth challenge is stargazing. And I know that Diane Carson's granddaughters have done well. Joan Robinson's granddaughter has done well. So I think it's important that we encourage our youth to get involved. And then sort of lastly, I think I'm coming to the end of my slide, is our next slide is that they've looked at the Canadian Quilter going online, but they're not. There was enough of a response from the survey that they're going to keep the magazine, but they are looking for a contractor to take over as magazine editor in June. So they're looking to contract that out. And that's really sort of all I've got. any questions? I'm sure you've already renewed your insurance, because that's
Yes.
one of the big things
Mhm.
to make sure that we have insurance. So I'll take any questions. Okay. And I will try to be sort of around. Like, it's sort of nice that I can actually, I've been going to sort of things that are in the past anyway in London. So I will continue to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. And you're absolutely welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Carrie, we're happy to have had you join us and share the information that's coming up. I'm looking forward to going to Quilt Canada. It's always an amazing show. And there's Carrie's information. So now we go back to the stuff that we are doing. In 2024, January was much like what we're doing today, looking back at 2023. In February, we had staff from the London Cross Cultural Learner Centre join us to talk about what they do. And this is the organization that we work with to our donation quilts are directed here, and they go to newcomers in Canada and stay with the newcomers. So any of the if anybody is making quilts that they want to donate, we do have some batting that is available to be used for quilting up, and we have some long armors who will quilt that for you. So we welcome and continue to welcome quilts for donation to the London Cross Cultural Learner Centre. And we last year we were introduced to and participated in the Museum London and Up with Art arty party celebration. And so we had a few meetings with that project, which was amazing. And we also introduced quilt whispering, which we continue to do in our monthly shows or monthly meetings. Just like we do the show and share, we're doing quilt whispering. In March, we made improv pieces to frame the artwork that was going to be happening in the Up with Art project. And we had a worldwide quilting day sew-in. In April, we had the amazing Paola Machetta talk to us about the work that she does. And I met Paola she was my QuiltCon mini swap partner. And she does these most amazing improv pieces, and they're curved pieces and all kinds of skinny lines. And they're an absolute delight. And it was, I loved having her speak and talk about how she goes about making them. And then in the arrangement that we had with Paola for this, I joined her Beyond Borders Guild and talked about my quilting journey. So that was a really fun experience. But I was really happy to have Paola for the guild. And I know that I think she's got something accepted into QuiltCon 2025. And she did have at least one quilt at QuiltCon in Raleigh. So it was really fun to see her quilts there. In May, we did the Arty Party, this collaboration with the museum and Up with Art Unity Project, where the guests at their fundraising meeting created little vignettes in their theme colors, and there were 3 of us that were sewing. There were 2 that were cutting. There was 2 that were pressing. So it was a sort of production line, and all of the improv strips that were framing all of the pieces. It was a fantastic experience. So it was really fun collaboration. And I so love that drawing that's on the paper that's on the table. He just sat down and drew. In June, we had Charles Cameron he did a presentation and a workshop. So in June, he did his presentation on color and Engineer's Guide to Color Value and Placement. And I absolutely love that we have so many different perspectives on how to work with color. And his was the rainbow order of color was a whole new aspect for me and makes a lot of sense. And I really loved learning about that. His workshop was fantastic. He was very well, he was great. He was very good to work with and just it was a fun day. And we also had our first Stitching in the Park in July. In August, we started working on and receiving challenge blocks for the Modern Quilt Guild Lines and Bars Challenge quilt that is now put together and ready to be shipped. And we did a multi-purpose pin cushion, and we had another Stitching in the Park. And this is the challenge quilt. So on the right-hand side of the screen is the front of the quilt, and the left-hand side of the screen is the back. So we had party in the front and the back. In September, we had Emily Trehan speak, another fantastic speaker, and blown away that she does all of her pieces from thrifted. Like she doesn't shop in a fabric store.
No, all recycled materials.
Yeah, and all solids, which amazes me. We also had a freezer paper piecing demo. And then Thanksgiving, October Thanksgiving weekend, we had a sew-in. November, we had Carolina Oneto with the workshop, and at the meeting, we had bag making with Shirley. And December, we had our potluck. 2020, the block of the month 2024. This was the project that we all worked with. And Angelina, thank you so much for putting that all together. It was great to see all of the different techniques from the Modern Quilt Guild, and really interesting to figure out how to put it all together. And here's some of the projects that our members made from the block of the month. I really love that we have the little birds in the trees in a couple of them.
So many different interpretations and colors.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I'm going to take it over to Jan and Jane. Just let me know when you want me to switch slides, Jen. You're on mute.
Thanks, Linda. We're ready to go. So starting with February, in some cases, everything is happening in our weekly or our monthly guild meeting. In other days, we have separate dates during the month for something that's happening. So a number of our members are also members of the London Canadian Embroidery Quilters Association or collaboration. So a group of them are giving us a presentation on art quilting. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we can see what they're doing and see if there's any collaboration or ways that we can put some of this into our modern interpretation. So thank you to those. I think there's 5 members who are participating in that. So it's you'll notice I went and looked for graphics to go with each of these things. And from the CEQ London website, I found one by one of our members. So if you look closely, you'll see that this is Andrea's from their website. Okay, next slide. In March, we have 2 things with Amy Friend. Amy Friend is a very interesting modern quilter, very active with the Modern Quilt Association. She's in Massachusetts. And her lecture for us, or presentation, is with the topic of alternate grid and negative space, which I think we've talked about several times over the last few years. And she has several examples of it. I picked this one particularly because it makes those sort of flowers. She's very improvisational. Look, almost wind blown. So, and it's an interesting use of, she has a lot of negative space in this one. It's something that we've talked about a lot. It's fascinating how negative space can really pop your designs up. Next slide. Then we talk about negative space. Wasn't that convenient? On our regular March meeting, we have newish members. You'll notice that's not really in the Oxford English Dictionary. It's a made-up word. It's for people who are relatively new to our guild, maybe last 2 or 3 years. Some of them have past quilting experience with other guilds, and they're now also, perhaps, and still staying with their older guilds. They're now joining us for the modern guild. So we're having a trunk show with them. Once again, I think it's a group of about 4. Should be really exciting. And you'll notice what I found for a graphic to go with this. I grabbed this off our last monthly meeting when Elaine and Linda were showing this, which was leftover blocks from our Up With Art project, which Elaine put together, a newish member, and added a whole bunch of negative space. Thank you very much for cooperating there, Elaine. Slide. Next. Okay, we also have in March Worldwide Quilting Day. It will be live at the community center where we meet. Whatever is happening at that time, you'll get more information closer to that. But we do have the place booked for that day.
We do.
This is a busy, busy month. Also, in March, Amy is going to be doing a workshop. You'll notice it's about 2 weeks after her presentation to the Guild. She has many topics. I got to pick this topic from her list in conversation with her. Improvisational paper piecing. I first saw Amy's work when I went to QuiltCon in Savannah, which was quite a few years ago. And she was one of the ones that had won a big prize, and she was right at the entrance. The big prizes are always when you walk into the show. And I remember thinking at the time, why did you use paper piecing for that? But then I realized that what she'd done is probably drawn it on paper and then said, okay, now how do you piece this? It's different, and it really was. And paper piecing really was the easiest way to do it. She's a master of paper piecing, but she does it in a very non-traditional way. So these 2 pictures here are both from her website, and you'll see some of her style. She has a definitely improvisational style, but she keeps it under control, which is kind of fun and kind of interesting for any of you taking the workshop. You see how you can use a new technique and put a little bit of personal control into it. I love that one that's all pinks. I mean, is it a rose garden or is it spider webs? It's whatever you want it to be, I guess, but it is improvisational, but you can see the design. You can see where she's heading with it and interpret it yourself. The lower one is also hers, and it is very improvisationally pieced, but then put together in something that you would recognize a traditional quilter would say, oh yeah, that's a sort of a starburst of some sort, but it's not exactly as you'd see it in a traditional quilt. So paper piecing gives you the freedom to try something really experimental. Okay, on to the next slide. In April, we have a lecture with Steph Scardo, who is once again, a very active member of Modern Quilt Guild. She's been a juror at QuiltCon several times, and she's written up about what it's like to be a juror. She has a very controlled, minimalist approach to quilting with a very modern twist. So one of the early ones she did is that one that looks like 3 flying geese. except it isn't. When you get closer to it, you really, no, that's not a flying, it's not the traditional flying geese pattern. It's just the effect that she's created. The other thing in the graphic that's on here is the one at the lower is the graphic for the Quilty Solids app for your phone or your tablet. And she was the designer of this. And we've all got introduced to it last year. And that was that graphic is when they updated the color choices on it. So it's, I'm looking forward to hearing her. She's very experimental in a very accessible way. So I think you'll really enjoy her as a speaker. Next slide. No graphic on this scene. Our own Sandra Thomas do a Quilted Garments trunk show for us. We've seen that online, but in person it's even better because we get to see them really, really close. And you notice, personally, I can't find anything online to put as a graphic because Sandra's much better than anything you're going to see there. In this next slide, in the same month, she's going to offer us a workshop, and we've already booked the date, May 31st, at the community center. Limited registration, folks, so get your name in as soon as Louise gets these up on our website. And once again, the graphic that I found, and I just stopped when I found this one. I thought, okay, yeah, that's going up on our PowerPoint, but really, we'll all do much better than this, I think. Sorry for whoever made that. Don't tell them I said that. Okay. On
Sandra, you're muted if you wanted to say something.
Sandra. It was Sandra. She's left.
No, she's gone to
Oh, no.
take the mute off.
Oh, she's run over to her computer
Yeah.
to unmute.
Sorry, I work with a computer, so it's a little trickier. Yeah, no, I will definitely have something better to show. But as you say, no offense. Yeah,
Wonderful, Sandra. We're looking forward to that one.
yes, so am I. So am I. Thank you.
Thanks.
And on to the next slide. In June, Pat is going to do Shashiko. She's done it for several years now. And one of the things that Pat likes to do, and I've seen some of her projects, is do hand sewing in some piece of work and then incorporate it into something that's got other piecing and quilting in it. So it's very fun. To make it more fun for everybody after you see the demo, we're going to have some small printed Shashiko patterns printed onto white cotton, just plain white cotton. And you'll get a small piece, probably maybe half a sheet of regular printer paper or maybe the full sheet, whatever Pat tells me what to do. I'll just print it. So you'll get that to take home so you can try it yourself. So it'll be a printed pattern for you to give it a quick try. On to the next slide. And in July, we're going to do big stitch hand quilting with Lindsay Jansen. And Lindsay's been doing this for years. We've all seen her at the back of our guild meeting, sitting there quietly stitching away. So she has agreed to do a demonstration and talk to us about how she does it and how you could add it into your quilting as the entire project or add it in a few places where you just want some accents. So these are both just images, graphics I downloaded offline. These are not Lindsay's work. But that's in July. Now, on to the next slide. We made the decision that we'd focus on the first 7 months of the year and then tell you just in brief detail what's going to happen after that. We do not currently have anything for August, so if anybody has a wonderful inspiration, please make us all feel on the planning committee for this. Give us a real boost and give us a suggestion. But we do have other things going on into the fall after August. So Jane is working on a guest lecture and workshop combination in the fall. So we have another lecture and another workshop you can sign up for. Linda and Jane are doing a hands-on session in September. with more paper piecing. So, you know, I mean, we're going to get lots of practice on paper piecing in many different ways. And it's a pretty broad topic. You can do it so many different ways.
Yeah.
Mary is going to do some work on showing us different ways of finishing our quilt. So if the only thing you've ever done is put binding on it, which is almost where I am, then this will be such a real boost for us, so we can see some of the other ways that you can finish off your quilt in a unique or personal way. And then, of course, we party, because we always party at the end of the year, so we'll probably have another potluck, I'm guessing, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Now,
In October will be,
yes,
October will be a sew-in again,
yes.
because it's
in
Thanksgiving
October.
weekend.
Yeah. That's a good point, Linda, to bring that one up, because I didn't bother putting it down here. Our guilds meets the second Saturday. 99% of the time, that works out to be Thanksgiving weekend. So, you know, attendance is sketchy. People come or not come if they happen to be available, or they might be off visiting family or hosting family. So it is sketchy. So we've traditionally left that as a sew-in day. Come, do your thing, socialize, but there will not be a set program that particular month. Now, recently, as in the last 12 hours, an additional thing was added. So here's our last slide, almost last slide. In the previous slide, I mentioned that Jane was working on 2 more things in the fall. So I'm turning this over to Jane. Unmute yourself, Jane, if you're muted, and for our last screen.
Okay, we have booked now Sheila Frampton Cooper, who I think is a very exciting artist.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Sorry. No, I just said yay.
Yay, yay. Anyway, we have her booked for her lecture on November the 5th, and she'll be doing spontaneous creation and inspiration. And then on November 26th, there's a workshop. It's not lines and curves. What I'd actually asked her to teach us was applique and piecing equals new possibilities. It's a really interesting new technique. It kind of builds a little bit on using freezer paper, and it builds on the technique of applique piecing developed by Carol Breyer Fallert Gentry. I've not heard of that artist, but anyway, it's a very interesting technique where you can take almost any complex abstract idea and turn it into a quilt with very clean graphics. And that's demonstrated here by her illustrated quilts. I think that people will really enjoy learning the new technique. We always like adding a new technique to our repertoire, and her use of color is just phenomenal. And that's it.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Jan.
Can I ask a quick question?
You can.
So I take it, I think Sheila Frampton Cooper is amazing. So I take it that you do your presentations and workshops remote, like, so you do a hybrid, because she's in California. So that was just my quick question. So that's what you do?
Yes.
We don't do hybrid, Carrie. We did that. We started doing these distant workshops and lectures during COVID, of course, like almost everybody else in the quilting world. And when the restrictions were over, we tried to run hybrid meetings, and it turned out that most people with speakers wanted to hear it in person, so they just stayed home, and we ended up with very, very tiny little meetings getting together in the hall, which sort of defeated the purpose of having a guild. So we moved our lectures to the week before our guild meetings. So we get an invitation for a Zoom session. We hear our speaker from our homes with good audio and visuals and everything else like that. And then we get together for our regular guild meetings in person.
Oh, that's great. Because honestly, having lived through the hybrid world, it's so much work to do hybrid. And you lose, like, you either do Zoom or you meet in person.
That's absolutely what we came up with. You can't get that quality of sitting there in front of your computer with what you're getting from this distant speaker. And you lose it when you're in the room with echoey sounds and everything else. Plus, if you stayed home, you lost the guild activities that went along with your meeting. So you're right, hybrids, they sound a lot better than they are.
And all of our lectures, all of our speakers are all part of our membership, the annual dues. So those are available to everybody, and we do sell guest passes to all of our lectures. And all of the workshops are also by Zoom, so you're in your own home studio. And so they're also not on our guild day. And those are additional fees. So the guild funds the lecture, but and if you wanted to take the additional workshop with that featured speaker, those are an extra cost to the person that's taking the workshop, and the members all get first right. So we sell the workshops privately to our members, and then if we don't fill them, they do go out. Guests are able to join if they're not full.
Well, after listening to your program, I think I'm joining.
Yay! Our work is done here. That's fabulous. Thanks, Gary. We have a lot of fun, and really, we would love to have you, and appreciate you joining us. And that gives us an extra a little bit of information from CQA for our meetings as well. So that would be fantastic. And what? All right. So the next item on our list, I have an inspiration challenge for us. And so I love doing challenges because usually they push me in some way. A different way to work with fabrics, a different way to work with colors, using some sort of rules or some sort of guidelines that you might not be familiar with work or use in your everyday quilt making. And usually it's a fun size product. So, you don't have to invest a lot of fabric into it and a lot of time into it, but you can have some fun with it. So these are the rules. They're air quote rules. They're guidelines and parameters for the challenge. And for color, last quilt challenge, I did have everybody use ginkgo, which was one of my favorites. But this time I want not mine. It was a challenge. but what everybody that used that most of the people that worked with that different color found a way to make it work for them in the project. So that was a really fun benefit for me to see the way that people used it. So this time I want you to try something new, that be a color that you haven't used or a color combination that you've not used. And that new color or color combination can be any proportion. It can be just a little zing, or it can be the majority of the quilt, but it must be the quilt top. But you can also use it for the back or the binding or the backing or the facing. For the design inspiration, we're going to use the number 42. Do we have wild guesses on what 42 means to me?
The answer to life, the universe, and everything?
Thank you, Lindsay. I love the number 42. Douglas Adams is this fantastic author. I read all his books. My kids read all of his books. One of my favorite memories is my son on a couch at a cottage we were renting. He had a broken leg and he was reading this book and he laughed and laughed and laughed. Anyways, so we're using 42. So for 42, take any publication, a book, a magazine, quilting, non-quilting, and use that as your inspiration. So find something on page 42 of some publication and use that somehow in your as a design inspiration or as an inspiration for the work. The next component is inspired by Emily Trahan, and that is to use at least one component that's recycled or thrifted. How big should this be? And so the perimeter should be at least 80 inches, so like 20 by 20, or 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters, or anything larger. So we do want to have them at least like a little wall hanging size, but you can make it bigger if you want. So the finished quilts, we would like to have them presented at our April meeting. And I just wanted you to have some fun with it. Any questions on it? When I was telling the executive about this plan, I know that Jan immediately went and looked up page 42 of all kinds of things to find inspiration. Oh, you're muted, Jan.
And I've already picked out my quote. And I agree with you about Adams. He's one of my favorite writers, so I immediately went to him, and I've already got an idea that I'm going to work on this. I love this challenge, Linda.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thanks. All right, cool. So have some fun with this. If you have questions, you can always send me a note. But have some fun with this. Next up, we have Shirley and Linda.
All right. Do I have to do anything or?
Nope, I'm going to spotlight you for everybody. There you go.
All
So
right.
you're showing up there. Okay.
So this year we're going to work on building some skills by using techniques from this book. And every month we'll talk about something a little bit different so that you can have a toolbox of techniques to apply to anything that you want to make up. This month, we're not doing the book in order. This month, we're starting with strip sets and we'll work 3 months on strip sets. If you have the book, I'm getting a new laptop. Mine is about 15 years old, no longer supports email and will be obsolete in October. So I'm struggling with it because I haven't figured out how to do everything I want to do on the iPad yet. So bear with me. But this is, if you can see that, that's the middle of that quilt is all done with strips. I'm not one for ever cutting a square or a triangle one at a time and sewing them back together. If there's a way I can sew them together quickly, then I will do it. But strip sets can be vertical, horizontal. They can be short, they can be long. If you want to do strip sets to create a background for something, if you've got a lot of negative space, but you don't want it to be uniform, or you want a little bit of texture to it, to do that in the background. It can be long and short, it can be different colors. A lot of things that I saw today in the presentations, I'm going, oh, there's a strip set, oh, there's a strip set. So over the next 3 months, we'll learn a little bit more about them. This I actually made. I'm not seeing me big. So let me see, whatever. All I see is block of the month on my screen.
Yeah, that's because the PowerPoint presentation is still on. So you're not enlarged.
But are you not beside it?
We see you, Shirley. We see both.
But do you see me big?
No, not big.
It would be easier if you could see me bigger.
Okay.
Just touch Shirley down in the corner and she'll take over the screen.
How about now, Shirley?
Oh yeah, that's better. All right, so this quilt I actually made. Oh, getting the iPad there.
Yep.
You can probably see it. So it's made with big pieces. So strip piecing isn't always little pieces. So this month, what will be posted on the website is I opened up my old trusty laptop, and as I thought of something, I typed it up, and then I'd email it to Linda, and she'd look at it and tell me whether it made sense to her or not. And we've come up with tips and tricks for creating strip sets. If you need, there may be occasion when you need to be accurate. So some ideas for that, pressing seam allowances and what difference it makes pressing them open or to one side, choosing threads, when cutting strips, how to make sure that at the fold you don't have hills and valleys. When you're cutting multiple strips from the same fabric, no, you can't go through a whole meter and cut 2-inch strips and have the fabric stay in alignment. Every so often you have to retrim up the one you want to measure from because it's gone kind of wonky. How to sew together multiple strips. How to cut after you've sewn your strips together, how to cut so you've got squares and rectangles and not trapezoids or wonky kinds of things. And pressing strip sets. And anything that I've said that you don't understand and you want me to show you or demonstrate at a meeting, that's not a problem. So this month, if you want to practice making things, you can do checkerboards or improvise with thick and thin strip sets. And what I've done is put a little bit together about trying Bargello. So if you can see behind me, I've done upside down and backwards, a little bit of Bargello. And what it basically is you sew the strip sets. You can see them at the top. And you can see 2 little bits there. If I'm doing strip sets and doing a lot of Bargello, I'll make 2 and press the seams in opposite directions. So when I cut them apart, I alternate up seams and down seams and sew them back together. So does this work? Oh yeah, kind of. So Bargello is basically you have your strip set and you set up measurements and you start with say 2.5 inches, 2 1/4, to 1 3/4, 1 1/2, 1 1/4, 1, and then you start going back up again, making them wider. So when you want to add you sew the strips into a tube, and when you're ready to add another set to your Bargello, you figure out, well, this light strip is going to go up 1. And me being a very visual person, I will put it down and go, okay, so I want the light one to go up 1. So I want this color to be at the bottom. And you unpick the seam. Well, let's do it the Jackie Gearing way. Just rip it. And so this next one, I've opened that seam, so all the colors have moved up 1. The next one would be, that one goes up, that one goes up. Excuse me. That one's going up there. It's going down, so it is this one. I think I'm right. If I'm not, whatever. So I went to that Quilter's Clinic website, and her Bargellos are quite intricate. So there's the next one. So if you want to give Bargello a try, I could even see someone doing light, dark, using all the same background to make your squares float off in one direction or the other, like the one that Carrie showed us. So next month we'll be doing strip sets again. So if you want to make a bunch in the colors that you've chosen to work in, then you'll have save some for next month and the month after, because we'll do some different kinds of cutting with them. So you'll have another tool in your toolbox. Oh. Those
Cool.
are strip sets that are made in the tradition of a double Irish chain. So there's 2 of this one, 2 of this one, and 1 for the middle. You make the 3 strip sets, cut them, sew them back together, and you've never cut a square. Bargello, this is a jacket from the 90s. And Bargello, it doesn't always have to be the same size squares. And you don't always have to move them up and down so that they match necessarily. You can just stagger them in a way that seems pleasing to you. So I think that's it for this month. Any comments, questions?
There's information on the website
Yes.
about the block of the month is information as well. Yeah.
3 pages, 2 pages of tips and tricks, and 1 page on how to try a little Bargello.
Thanks, Shirley.
You're welcome. Linda, Linda had something interesting in her background that she had done some strip sets, I think.
Linda Hoffner.
Linda Hoffner.
Okay. I will pin Linda Hoffner.
And that's the Linda that will be working together,
There we
playing with
go.
each other.
Nice. That's so nice, Linda.
Thank you very much.
So did you ever sew one rectangle to another? Or did you piece a whole bunch of strips together and then cut them up?
Those are all strips. The only thing I paid attention to was value. And I did not have a color choice because I didn't want to have to say, does it work or doesn't it work? I wanted to use every piece of leftover fabric I had. So I simply went through my stash that I no longer had enough for anything, and I stripped everything. And then I put them together the way you see them, with only concern for value.
And I love how you've got the black and white backgrounds blocked out. That looks fantastic.
Well, these are the ends of strips. So I made several different strip quilts, and then I had these pieces left over, and of course I couldn't throw them away. And somehow I am a piano player, and I looked at my piano, and this is called My Piano, black keys, white keys. My piano plays all colors.
Love it.
So I do like it. And then I used Jackie Gearing's walking foot, and I don't think you can see it because I'm too far away, but the stitching's about maybe half an inch apart, and it's the curves. So they're curved.
Nice.
So a couple of things I wanted to say about color. I plan to do my samples in these fabrics. Number 1, because I have a ton of them. Number 2, because I like them. And number 3, it won't influence anybody else's color choices. If you're going to be using colors and you're worried about having enough fabric of the same fabric, if you're going to use, say, blue, use more than 3 blues. The more you use, the more they'll blend together. The fewer you use, the more they'll have to go together to make a balanced piece of work when you're done.
That is great advice. All right. Thanks, Shirley.
Right.
Thanks. All right.
So we'll look forward to actually speaking in person next month.
Yes. All right, we should have our screen show back again. Are you seeing the screen show again? Yes, okay, great, great. All right. There we go. All right. And for our executive team in 2025, as you know, we are all volunteers. And we're all united with the purpose of making the guild work for us all and to have some fun. And for me, it's getting to know the other members of our guild. So I just wanted to thank the executive team for their work in 2025. Coming up, and also for the past number of years, we've had amazing volunteers in all of these roles. So I appreciate the work that everybody does for us. Stepping back for Angelina is stepping back from the guild executive. She did the block of the month for us. And she's on about 40 other boards. So and she has a lot of traveling. So I appreciate the time that she was able to carve out for us and the work that she did for us as the block of the month. So going forward in 2025, I am continuing temporarily as continuing for 2025 as president and mentoring Elaine. She's coming into the president position in 2026. Which means that we will need a new treasurer in 2026. So something to think about. We are still looking for a volunteer for vice president. And the expectation definitely is that it's a transitional position where you're supporting the president with the expectation that you would move into that president position. So most of these there's an expectation that you would do it for a couple of years. So I'm finishing up as president in 2025. Elaine comes in 2026. And then hopefully we have somebody steps in who will be vice, and they would step into the president position in 2028. So that keeps the creative juices flowing and distributes the work. And if anybody is interested in stepping into that vice president position, please let us know. And also for the treasurer. Kristen is our secretary and past president. Jan and Jane have been doing a program. Jane also does our community outreach for us. So she organizes the quilts that go to the London Cross Cultural Learner Center. Louise does our social media, so our website, our Instagram, our Facebook, all of those are managed by Louise. So if you have any pictures of anything from the meetings or things that you would like to have shared on social media, please reach out to Louise. Lorraine is doing our membership, so she looks after making sure that our members receive all of the resources and support that they need, and get them signed up for the Modern Quilt Guild, which is membership, which is part of the benefits of our membership. We have access to all of the amazing resources on the Modern Quilt Guild site. We have two Susans looking after the library. Linda and Shirley are doing the block of the month in 2025. Daphne is our MQG representative for 2025. And Shirley's continuing to look after our Inspired by Modern Work and Products project works in process, works in progress, works in process, something. And UFOs, which is also known as Show and Share. We also have members that would be delighted to organize a retreat for us if members express an interest. So if you want a retreat, let us know and we can start looking at that. Any questions? I can only see I can't see everybody on my screens when I'm screen sharing. So if you have a question, do raise your digital hand and I would be able to see that you have a question. All right. Membership renewals, Lorraine.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, membership renewals are coming in. I think we have about 34 people who have renewed already. We have one new member. So yeah, so whenever you get a chance to just get on the website, it's still $65 for the year.
Thanks, Lorraine. Kristen.
Hello, everybody. As you can see by the poster, our anniversary party is Sunday of next weekend. A lot of people have said they've got quilts for the display, and I don't have any here except for one. So if you've got them and you're coming to the anniversary party, if you can come when we start setting up around 10 o'clock, that would be great, so we could hang your quilts. Any questions? We've got the vendors, cake, make and take activity that Jan's planning. Any questions?
What do we need to bring?
Are you hanging a quilt? Do we have a quilt for you? I can't see on the screen who asked that question. So whoever it is, do you have a quilt for me?
No, I don't. Well, I don't think so. No, but
Okay,
I just
then-
wondered. So, do we need to, as a new member, what do we bring to, or just sort of show up at 12?
Yeah, just show up at 12. It's just a party. It's just something fun for us to celebrate 10 years. So no, you don't need to bring anything. Maybe if you wanted to bring Tupperware, if we have extra cake, let's bring some home. I don't know. It's just come, have fun. It's an open house. It's a drop-in. It's not the 4 hours unless you want to stay the 4 hours. You come bring some money because we have vendors, so you can shop.
I have one quick question, and really I should just send an email, but I'm not going to. This is for Elaine. Elaine, are you still planning to use a backdrop for one of our quilt frames for smaller quilts?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Then, remember we had 6 different sizes. We're not going to go to the full height, are we? Should I bring one of the slightly shorter ones? Nobody wants to climb up on the ladder to 10 feet high, right?
I'll bring about a 3-foot ladder.
Okay, I will go through the bag of backdrop cloths for our frames, and I'll pick one with a reasonable length so that it's not draping on the floor for you. I'm only bringing one. You're only putting up one frame for smaller quilts, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Is that right, Kristen? Do you think the same?
This is your setup, Elaine, so that's up to you.
Okay, so yeah, just one or two. Yeah, and anyone who wants to bring like a smaller wall hanging size quilt to hang up, bring
Should
that
we
as well.
contact you, Elaine, to tell you so you have a sense of how many people are bringing these little ones? Because I know Kristen is dealing with the people who are hanging twin bed size and bigger. So do you want to have a sense of numbers ahead of time? Might be a good idea for people to just contact you and you say, I've got one.
Right, right. If you just send an email to the guild address and let me know if you are bringing a small wall hanging size quilt, that would be great.
And in December, I think you said you'd want ones that sort of related to guild activities. So if they were maybe from workshops or something like that, that was a related activity to our regular meetings.
Right, yeah, that would be like the
Excellent.
Audrey Essery or the Charles no,
Oh.
maybe the Carolyn Onetto workshop, anyone that made and finished their product from that would be great.
Okay, thanks, Elaine.
Thank you.
We didn't have anybody that brought or that sent me anything for our show and share or quilt whispering. Does anybody have something that they want to share with us, like with a showing behind them? Okay, and I'll just well, I didn't have anything for quilt whispering either for our new members. we do have this segment each month called Quilt Whispering that is an opportunity to collaborate with our guildmates. And so basically it's a quilt top that you've created and you don't know how to quilt it, or you're looking for some suggestions on what you could do with finishing that quilt. So if you are looking for some assistance and collaboration, bring the top and we can talk about it's a brainstorming session, and people just throw out ideas of what they think might work for it. And for finishing up our session today, we have some exciting news from Kristen.
Sorry, I just ran upstairs to get my lunch. So I am going to be one of the guest artists at the Strathroy Museum for the whole month of March. I've got some of those little quilts you see on the screen, then I've got some of my bigger quilts to display. Free admission, hours are right there. Yeah, come out and see the quilts if you have time. There's a person beside me in the next room. She picks up roadkill and strange animals, and her animal heads and feathers will be on display, so you can see a combination of quilts and dead animals. So
Yeah.
I didn't know she was going to be beside me, so it's a little different. But anyway, yeah, it's for the whole month of March, and come on out if you can.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, great. And you have a quilt going to QuiltCon too?
I have a quilt going to QuiltCon, yes.
Cool.
Yes. Cool. Yes. Thank you.
And I think that is it. All right. Oh, now I can see everybody again. All right. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? All right. So that does it for our session today. There was a question in the chat about which book is being used for the block of the month. And one of the quilts is the Quilting Modern by Jackie Gehring and Katie Peterson. There was a second book that they were using as well, Shirley. And both of them are in our library. Oh, Sandra Thomas has it.
Which one?
I'm going to spotlight. There we go.
Oh, the color and design. Yeah.
Yeah.
An excellent reference tool on everything you need to know about color and creating designs in quilting.
Who's the author? Who's the author? It's reversed. So oh, you're muted.
Heather Thomas.
Heather Thomas. Okay. Thank you, Sandra. That's Sandra.
And if you borrow it from the Guild Library and you want a copy, Michael Annette Stash said that they are available to order.
Cool.
But she might have some at our January 19th.
Excellent. Thanks for organizing that for us, Shirley, so that the books are available.
Not a problem.
All right. Cool. Any other questions?
I just want to thank everyone, and I'm looking forward to joining you guys. So
yay!
I just wanted to say quickly thank you to everyone who's on the executive for 2025. As someone who's been on it, I see all the work that goes on in the background. There's a lot of activity and a lot of stuff people are doing, and I'm really happy to step back for a year because life is really busy. But I just want to say thank you to all of you that are on the exec this year for all the work that you're doing and going to do, and we're really grateful.
Thank you, Angelina. All right. I'm really excited for all of the programs that we've got coming up. Part of what we that wasn't part of that announcement, but we have some of 2026 planned as well. So we've got some speakers that are getting set up for there. So it's kind of like, I don't know if anybody else does this. They're working on pieces and making something and putting it together. Oops, I made a quilt. And it sort of happened with the programming. We ended up investigating a number of speaker opportunities, and in doing all of the booking, we've got some already penciled in for 2026. So it's going to be a great year. We have 2 speakers for 2026 already. Maybe 3 even. Cheryl and Irene and
Oh,
and
and
Jan.
yeah, Janice.
Yeah. So very exciting. And with all of our member-led sharing of information that goes on at our monthly meetings, I'm planning on a year of inspiration and stretching my skills, and also getting to know our members, and hopefully having a few sew-ins at our meetings as well. So a little bit of playtime. Yeah. All right, cool. So our February meetings in person back at the Eastlands Community Center. And the recording will be transformed on and available on our YouTube channel. It takes a little while for that recording to get processed by all of the things. But that will be available. So we'll send you a link to that when we send out follow-up notes. That will be available as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining our meeting today, and giving up part of your Saturday for our connection and for our community. And I will see you all soon. Thanks, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. Have a good week.